Hello, good beings, and welcome back to Midnight Requiem. Today we'll be talking about Elena Garro. Born December 11, 1916, was a Mexican screenwriter, journalist, dramaturg, short story writer, and novelist. She has been described as an initiator of the magical realism movement, though she rejected this affiliation. She is a recipient of the Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz Prize. Garro's writing dealt with exclusion of minorities from the national culture and the oppression of women by a male-dominated society. Specifically, she is very interested in the part of the population that was ignored by Mexican society of that time. The main settings of her stories are often with the rural areas of Mexico, which goes against the main point of the boom writers who, for the most part, depict urban landscapes such as Ciudad de Mexico or Buenos Aires. She distances herself from the big centers, turning her gaze to marginal areas and marginalized people. Although Garro's prose is impregnated with fantastic elements, the fantastic element also manifests itself through her choice of language. In this regard, her use of the fantastic is not a supernatural element that breaks the rules of realism in the story, as is the case in magic realism. Instead, the fantastic is presented with the hesitation of language, showing precisely certain transgressive uses of language that create the uncanny. The level of writing creates an atmosphere based on the ambiguity. The narrator plays a key role as he or she acts as the supervisor of what is narrated and is witness of the weird, so that the tale becomes a narrative of perception, where the writer creates, in a way, an illusion, unbalance of the real. Elena Garro was born in Puebla, Mexico, to a Spanish father and a Mexican mother, the third of 5 children. She spent her childhood in Mexico City, but moved to Iguala, Guerrero during the Cristero War. She studied literature, choreography, and theater in the National Autonomous University of Mexico in Mexico City, where she was an active member of Julio Bracho's theater group. She married Octavio Paz in 1937 and began a career in literature and theater. Garro's fiction explored political and social causes related to life in Mexico. Her citizenship status and views on Indian rights aroused controversies in Mexico. According to her biographer, members of Garro's family sympathized with white supremacy, and this influenced her prediction of blonde people as more beautiful. After her divorce from Paz in 1959, Garro spent time in seclusion between Mexico City, Madrid, and Paris in Europe until moving back to Cuernavaca, Mexico in 1994. As a close ally of politician Carlos Madrazo, she was also targeted in a campaign against political dissidents in 1968, and despite her anti-communist and right-wing views, she became the object of an anti-communist smear campaign in the aftermath of the Tlatelolco massacre. Following the Tlatelolco massacre, she was alleged to have accused some Mexican intellectuals of having instigated the students to riot and then abandoning them. She was ostracized by the intellectual community and subsequently went into exile for 20 years. She returned to Mexico in 1993 and died 5 years later. Garro has never really had the recognition she deserves. She felt that the Mexican literary establishment, the Octavio Paz in particular, were very much against her. Her first novel, Los Recuerdos del Porvenir, Recollection of Things to Come, is undoubtedly a classic of both Mexican and Latin American literature, using elements of magic realism 4 years before Cien Años de Soledad, 100 Years of Solitude, was published. Sadly, only 2 of her works are available in English. As always, my good being, be loving and caring to each other. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe, and leave comments. Have a wonderful day.